Greetings, this is Doc Ock coming to you live and direct today from Black Facts Headquarters Central. Yes, we are back in the saddle and ready to rattle, rock, rattle, and roll. So we're just going to take a little stroll today. We're going to be talking about, well, for one, today is Brother Bob Marley's birthday. Now, I know this brother here looks kind of familiar, like you might know him, but it's not Bob. That happens to be Ziggy. So I believe this is Bob's oldest son, if I'm not mistaken, Ziggy Marley. You know, they used to be part of him and his brothers and sisters used to be part of the Melody Makers. So almost like the story of Michael Jackson, except their father was a worldwide musical phenomenon, whereas Joe Jackson, not so much. So yeah, so they're coming out of this. We're going to be featuring some of the musical talents of the members of the Marley family. Ziggy, Julian, Damien, who else is there? Kimani. There's so many, and then there's I know there's a bunch I'm missing. There's about 9 or 11 of them, so there's quite a few. But big musical family. But even more than being a musical family, they are a family that has been on the front lines of African self-determination, the struggle for African self-determination. That's what we call it. Other people like to try and call it civil rights and all kinds of other things like that. But we're naming this. We're coining this term right now today, African self-determination. We're going to make it real simple. It's about Black folks doing for self. Just like Garvey said, that's part of our history. Okay? This ain't no mystery. We're going to take some of the mystery out of this history. Now, we're going to be doing some live streaming, and we've got some new ways of doing it. You know, we were doing this last year, but we've got some new ways of doing this that are going to take us to the next level. But it's going to take us a while to get settled into our revamped studio. We've been putting things back together again over here and trying to make some improvements on some things that we noted needed some improvement from last year when we last live streamed. All right, so in the meanwhile, let's go ahead and get this party started. Now we've got some you know, before we were doing a lot of poetry. We did proverbs, poems, and we also did stories. So we're going to keep doing the stories. We're definitely going to keep using proverbs, but we're also going to add in songs. So we may still do some poems, but we're also going to add in some songs as well. And these songs will take us to a whole nother level when you add in the musical vibes. Okay, the musical vibes. We're going to change the vibration, take it up another notch. All right. So hopefully you all will be intrigued enough to go ahead and subscribe below to the YouTube channel. If you're catching us on Facebook, which some of you may be doing shortly, I'm still trying to get all these devices operating. Then you can catch us over there too. But if you're on YouTube, there's a whole playlist. The one today is let's see, can't remember exactly how. Oh, it's called Africa Unite 2/6/2021. So go to the Kofi Kemet channel if you're not already there, or you can get there once we finish with this part of the live stream, and you can check out a whole playlist. It's 8 hours, and it'll have concert footage, Bob Marley and the children in concert. You'll see historical pieces, short documentaries, interviews with members of the family, with Bob Marley himself. You know, you're going to see, you get a chance to really get, become more familiar with Bob Marley, with Rasta, with reggae, and what it all means and what's the difference. You know, are all dreadlocks Rastas? And are all Rastas, do all Rastas have dreadlocks? These are some questions we plan to answer over the next 3 weeks, 3 weekends. So we got this weekend and then 3 more weekends after this one. We're going to be answering some of these questions right here on Black Facts for You. Okay. At Doc Ock at noon and 9. That's the name of our show. This is Doc Ock back in the saddle. So let's see what I got over here today for a poem. I got something over here for you. I'd like to read. I just wrote this one like last night, I think. Okay. Yeah, here it is here. So when we started off doing these programs last year, part of our purpose was to help to alleviate the pressure that we were all feeling from the election, from COVID-19, from Black Lives Matter, or really more precisely from what do you call it? Justifiable incidents, multiple incidents of what has been dubbed justifiable homicide, or as we like to call it, justifiable genocide. Okay, multiple incidents of that, to where you don't even want to walk out your front door, because if the police don't get you, then the COVID will, and if the COVID don't get you, then you still have to worry about the T-Rump monster down on the corner, because T-Rump might get you. And you want to know what T-Rump is? Yeah, well, I won't say his whole name, but it starts with a T, it ends with a rump, and everything that comes out of his mouth sounds like it came right out of a hump on his behind, if you know what I mean. So let's see what I got over here for a poem for today. So we want to relieve that pressure. So this poem speaks to that, and it's a work in progress. So, you know, don't be too harsh on me, because I know it still needs a little bit more work, but here's how it goes right now. Let me see if I can get it to go down the page here. Seems like it doesn't want to move down the page. I can get it to go down right here. I haven't printed this out yet. And it's called, If You're Feeling Low, Check Bob. If you're feeling low, check Bob. If you're feeling low, check Bob Marley. If you're feeling down, check Bob Marley. If you need to lively up yourself, check Bob Marley. Tired of do-nothing pundits? Check Bob Marley. 40 years ago, he passed this way. He preached peace and love with justice. Without justice, there shall be no peace. Jah was his sword and buckler, for there is none greater. When the bullets flew, they hit their target, but he did not die. The lightning came from the sky and the thunder clapped, but Bob had no fear, for Jah was near. Born in the hills of Jamaica, bred in Trenchtown, tempered in the UK, revealed to be the king of reggae in the USA. Bob lives as a positive iration, flowing through the trees, blowing in the breeze. When you need to be at ease, check Bob Marley. If you're feeling under pressure, let Bob help the pressure drop. COVID-19 making you frown, Bob can help you settle down. As the sun goes down, Babylon must fall. That's where I ended it right now. So I think I'm going to work on this some more, because I didn't really like the way it ended. But I think you get the idea. Okay? You get the idea. Yeah. So at any rate, let's see what I have here today. Okay. So as a poem for today, a proverb for today, here we go. And you know, that was one of Bob's things too. Bob loved him some proverbs. Bob loved him some proverbs. Always liked to put proverbs in his songs. So we got one today, and it goes like this. This one is from Guinea. Very simple proverb. The toad likes water, but not when it's boiling. The toad likes water, but not when it's boiling. Now, we said we weren't going to explain proverbs because that takes away the whole beauty of the proverb. So you're going to have to ruminate on that yourself, see what you come up with. But suffice it to say, the toad likes water, but not when it's boiling. Think about it. Don't stink about it. Now, years ago, back in the 1970s, I was first introduced to Bob Marley by some young women by the name of Marsha Tate. What was the other one's name? Oh, let me see. I can see their faces. See, there was Marsha Tate. Mary. Oh, I can't think of Mary's last name. Stone.
It's
Mary Stone.
12:30.
Marsha Tate, Mary Stone, Teresa Stone, and the fourth one was married to a political figure out there in Seattle. He ended up becoming county commissioner, county councilor. What was his name? Rhonda. I can't think of Rhonda's last name right now. But suffice it to say, they were a group of young women, and they had formed an organization they called the July 26th Choreo Poets. And for those of you who are not politically astute, as these women were, July 26th is the date of the beginning of the Cuban Revolution, July 26th. So they were the July 26th. We were the July 26th Choreo Poets. My job, I was the music man. So I would provide the rhythm upon which they would recite their poems, and then they would dance because it was a group of choreo poets. So by definition, there was some choreography involved. So this group of poets and musicians and dancers introduced me to Bob Marley. They asked me to put together a rhythm for them to recite a poem called War, which is one of Bob Marley's songs. So in 1976, they were already hip to this. So this is kind of some kismet here. 1976, and this is the 76th year following the birth of Bob Marley. So we got 76 coming up in there as an important number. If you add the two together, you get 13. I'll let you figure that one out later. Meanwhile, so they introduced me, but when they first asked me to provide this music for them, they said the song was called War, and I was like, War? You mean like Edwin Starr? I was thinking of war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. And so that's what I thought, but it wasn't. It was actually Bob's version of at least part of a speech made by Emperor Haile Selassie, Lord of Lords, King of Kings, conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah. And so he made this speech before the UN in, was it 1930 something? I'm not sure if it was 31 or 36, probably 36, probably about 1936. Not before the UN, before the League of Nations. This is before the UN existed. He made this speech, and he was warning the civilized nations of the world that were part of this League of Nations that if they were not careful to support each other when rogue nations were going around and invading other nations, that soon those rogue nations would be on their doorstep. And who would they have to defend them? And sure enough, that warning preceded the beginning of World War I. Excuse me, of World War II. So he made that speech again in 1963 to the UN. And he again was warning the nations of the world about the very same conditions that existed in 1936 and 1963. So you see there's that synchronicity. 3663, opposite ends of the same story. Okay, same stuff, different day. And here we are today, and we are still looking at the very same situation trying to develop right here in the USA in terms of a charismatic leader taking people off, not into the sunset, but into a long period of death and destruction that the world has never seen the likes of previously. So history does repeat itself. So we feel that the message that Bob had that Selassie had in 1936 and 1963, and that Bob repeated in 1976 is just as relevant now as it was then. And so all of this is related to Bob and his roots. And that's part of what we want to explore in this program on Doc Ock and Noon and 9 that we have dubbed Roots, Reggae, Revolution, and Redemption. The 4 R's. Okay, we got 4 R's. Rasta, Reggae, Revolution, and Redemption. And so at that same time, when I discovered Bob Marley and this song that he called War, I also discovered this soon after I discovered Rastafari. Okay, because that is what Bob Marley is. He was a Rasta. And so I got this particular book here. I don't know when it was published, but I got this book to read about Rasta. So this was my first introduction to Rasta, as to what Rasta is and who the Rastas are, where the Rastas come from. Yeah, this book was published 1979. And so that was the same year. I bought this book when it first came out, 1979. So I want to do just a little bit of reading from the book and see if we can explain what is a Rasta anyway, and why are Rastas important? Why should we even be talking about Rastas? What does this have to do with Bob Marley? Well, let's see. Let me get my glasses out. I thought I'd lost these the other day. I went to go look for them and couldn't find them. Forgot I had them right down here in our lively studio, the Black Fact studio. There we go. You can see, hear, feel, smell, and even touch the West Indies in many places in the U.S. today. Whether they are blue-collar descendants of the Caribbean's former slave masters or Harlem cab drivers, the people of the West Indies have arrived in America. More and more, the West Indian cadence in speech, music, and all forms of culture is being felt in America's urban centers, heard over America's airwaves. For the first time, Jamaica's reggae music is achieving a relatively potent stance in the popular music industry. This grudging recognition is America's cold welcome. The giant nation proclaims itself, but has difficulty practicing its avowed role as the world's melting pot. All races, colors, and religious persuasions can mingle in reality, but the dimension where our mentalities are shared is yet ahead of us. A pertinent witness to these things are manifested in the entertainment world, where minorities often earn their first chance to fly. Is Bob Marley the spearhead of reggae? There have been other Jamaican music stars, Harry Belafonte, Jimmy Cliff, Peter Tosh, toots and the maytals and burning spear, as well as those who play rock, ska, and dub music. But reggae is the sphere of Bob Marley, Rasta. Rastas are seen now in the streets of Harlem and Philly. They are in and around the many fast-growing West Indian communities in the U.S. The newspapers give page one reports of crimes committed by groups alleged to be Rastas. America, fascinated as always with the foreign, the unknown, grows curious about this new movement, which once discovered unfolds as old as time, as close as nature. Rastafari draws increasing attention and remains a mystery. The purpose here is to reflect some portions of Rasta reality as it is lived in Jamaica, West Indies. Not a definitive structured study, Rastafari stands away from the clinical in an effort to transcend and communicate for the first time the fundamental philosophies and practices of this highly diverse and complex group. Rasta is, before it is anything else, a way of life. And that is the title of the book, Rastafari, a way of life. Okay, not a religion, but a way of life. Where were we at? It offers approaches and answers to real problems Black people face in daily living. It promotes spiritual resilience in the face of oppressive poverty and underdevelopment. It produces art, music, and cultural forms which can be universally recognized and appreciated. More important, Rastafari provides a positive self-image, an alternative to people who need and cannot find or accept one elsewhere. Even with its Black foundation and orientation, Rastafari is open to anyone of any race who chooses to discover and is able to accept it. During my first visit to Jamaica in the winter of 1970, I was returning to Aracabessa on the island's north shore from Dunn's River Falls, a scenic tourist spot enjoyed even by vacationing Jamaicans. I noticed a tall Black man with long, twisted hair walking his bicycle along the side of the road. His bearing was dignified, even as his appearance bespoke extreme poverty. His eyes held anger, but focused somewhere beyond the immediate scene. I asked Mr. Smith, the driver, who that man was, and was told, "That's a Rasta man. They some bad people, man. Criminal element and very violent. They crazy, I think, from puffing that ganja. And you never know now what they going to do. So just keep yourself safe and stay away. That's all." Contrary to Mr. Smith's advice, I did meet some Rastas on that visit, a wood carver and a painter, who impressed me as being some of the most peaceful people I'd ever known. I soon discovered that politics, economics, and worldview played strong parts in the Rasta story. And on a later visit to Sangster's bookstore in Kingston, I found further illumination. A pamphlet by Rex Nettleford, M.G. Smith, and Roy Algier. I don't know how to say his name. Algier, it looks like. Sponsored by the University of the West Indies at Mona and published some 10 years before. Gave me some preliminary insights into the structure and meaning of Rasta lifestyle. Since then, I have visited Jamaica several times, meeting and talking with Rastas in all spheres of life throughout the island. I've met them in my native New York City, seen them in Boston and D.C. The information compiled for the text of this essay has germinated for quite some time and has been generated through a variety of experiences with Rastas. The most compelling and concentrated experiences occurred during a visit to Jamaica in the spring of 1976, when I spent my days among Rastas and was one of two, the second being photographer Bill Sparrow, non-Rastas, to attend the annual Ground Nation celebration in praise of Haile Selassie. That's one of the things we're going to talk about later, will be Ground Nation, and explain what exactly a Ground Nation is. The Rastas are a most sensitive group about research. Recent revelations of CIA activity in Latin America and elsewhere have brought the Rastas' natural cautiousness to a fine point. In other words, just because they're paranoid doesn't mean that somebody ain't after them. And no one is above suspicion. When I entered a Rasta comp with writers, paraphernalia, pen, pad, tapes, mic, and recorder to record my interviews and experiences among them, I found the tables turned. I was being questioned and taped. When the brethren were relatively satisfied that this book was an effort to reflect and not judge them, we could begin. Being a woman in this context was no simple task for complex reasons. On my first visit to a temple of Rasta, I was greeted by a group of 20 brethren who screamed, moaned, and shouted, "Hell to fire and damnation! You crossed Selassie, condemned to things, and shame in our house." I had only walked through the doorway. I listened, bewildered, as one Rasta recommended that they invoke divine mercy on this daughter. I was told I sinned by entering the temple bareheaded and by wearing pants. Like some gentle breeze, a woman appeared from nowhere, bringing me a scarf to cover my head. As I tied it on, she discovered as quietly and swiftly as she had come. She disappeared as quietly and swiftly as she had come. I sat down and did not speak until spoken to. When I think, the brethren were surprised at my discussion of the concept of the book, its value, and my interest in doing it. The depth and intensity of my inquisition in themselves were testaments to the nature of Rastafari. The Rastas have already achieved the indemnity of notoriety in their own culture, and that experience has taught them caution in communicating to the outside world. After 2 days of questioning, I was able to begin work, exhausted, but pleased by the fact that we started from a position of knowing each other as people before we knew each other as functional parts of a publication. In coming to know Rasta, the first thing to be recognized is that it is not a cult, a religion, an ideology, a cultural revival, or a revolutionary political movement. Rastafari cannot be defined in these terms because it flows beyond, contradicting each of them and all of them. Religiously, it begins with the ancient and fundamental beliefs of Hebrew theocracy. Culturally, it has multiple facets, ranging from Africa to Jamaica, with some Anglo-Hispanic East Indian accents. Socially, it is bound to some degree by the fabric of Jamaican life. Politically, it is interplayed with forces of the Black Freedom Movement in rebellion against Jamaica's neo-colonial reality. Economically, it is depressed, quote unquote, as is a majority of the Jamaican populace, and striving to clear the scars of that depression. Rastafari, a way of life, seeks to weave these elements into a common cloth to be looked upon with comprehension by people of vastly different backgrounds, so that the sons and daughters of Rastafari may be perceived as a part of human reality and not as some deep, mysterious fear in a stranger's fantasy. Jah Rastafari, praise the Most High Jah. So there you have it. Brief introduction to Rasta. Now, in the book, I had to rephrase some things because apparently, as is indicated from that introduction I just read, the woman that wrote the book is not a Rasta. So she likes to use the term Rastafarian. We are not Rastafarians. We're Rastas. That's it. There's no Ian on the end of it. There's no ism schisms. You hear Bob talk about ism schisms. This is what he's talking about. That's an ism schism. Okay, Rastafarian, that's definitely an ism schism. So Rasta don't deal with no ism schisms. There's a lot of other things we don't do as well. But there's many things that we do. And one of those things is live. Live good, live well, live healthy, live free, and live free. And that, my friend, is a very difficult thing to do in these days and times, as you already know. So we're going to wrap this up right now. And we've already got our playlist active. We made it public. You're looking for Africa Unite 2/6/2021. It'll be under on the Kofi Kemet channel. That's KOFI KHEMET. That's where you'll find me today. So go ahead and check out the whole series of videos on there and subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming ones, because we'll have another series tomorrow, and then we'll repeat that every Saturday and Sunday for the rest of the month, because this is Black History Month. So this is what we're going to do. One of the things that I've learned as a historian is that there's more than one way to do quote unquote history, to record, to research, to delve into historical information. Now, one way, you could be like a chicken. If you ever been in the barnyard and you see a chicken, you never see a chicken. A chicken ain't a fox. A fox lives in a hole. That's why the soldiers had foxholes. They were called that for a reason. Okay? So foxes and dogs, they live in holes. They don't live in houses. They don't live in dog coops. They live under the ground. But chickens just scratch the surface. They don't dig holes. They never go down really deep. They just scratch the surface everywhere they go. They scratching and scratching all over the barnyard. They scratching the surface, trying to see if they can just kind of loosen up the soil and find what critters might be laying right there beneath the surface that they can eat. Okay, that's what chickens do. I am not a chicken. I'm more like a fox or a wolf, if you would. Maybe even a dog. Okay, I want to dig deep. So as opposed to just getting, I could have done this Black History Month thing this year. I could have done Bob Marley today and Fela Shawande tomorrow and Nelson Mandela the next day. I could have done that and just skipped around the barnyard and just given you a little piece of 1,000 different people, and you wouldn't have known squat about none of them except that little blurb that I gave you. So instead of doing that, my idea is to go ahead and do something that Booker T. Washington, I think of him when I think of this idea. He said, lay down your bucket where you are. And so as opposed to laying down a bucket, I want to take a shovel and just dig right where I am and just dig and dig and dig and dig and dig. Now, after a while, you're going to hit water. If you dig long enough, you're going to hit the water table. You're going to hit water. You're going to hit some rocks as you're going down. And if you dig far enough, you end up all the way in China, all the way on the other side of the world. So you can actually discover the whole world just by digging a hole right where you're at. You can discover the whole world and everything that's in it just by digging straight down. You don't have to go out from where you're living and travel all over and do all these things necessarily. Those are good things to do. I love to travel too. But today we're going to do a little time traveling, and we're just going to dig down deep and see what we discover. And I guarantee you, we will discover the whole world by just digging down into the roots of Bob Marley, Rasta, reggae, revolution, and redemption. Peace out, y'all. We'll be black here tomorrow. And I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to try and set up another live stream in a different way during the day today. But meanwhile, go ahead and start watching the videos that I posted up on YouTube. I'm getting ready to share them. I've already shared a link to them on Facebook, and I'll do some more sharing of these links, like I said, on Facebook, so that you can also find the link on Facebook and get to and access it that way if you haven't already. All right, in the meantime, peace out without a doubt. I hope I've given you something to think about. And I will be black here this evening again at 9. This is Doc Ock at noon and 9, signing off for now.